Ever wondered why a company that makes AI chatbots suddenly wants to build a social network? OpenAI's reported plans to create a Twitter-like platform might seem random, but there's a critical resource they're desperately hunting: your data. While Meta and Google feed their AI models with billions of daily user interactions, OpenAI is currently stuck paying for access to training content. This social network isn't about connecting people, it's about creating a self-sustaining ecosystem where users generate the very content needed to make ChatGPT smarter every day. The social network announcement that shocked tech. Last month, tech newsrooms lit up with an unexpected headline: OpenAI is developing a social network. The information broke the story, revealing that the company behind ChatGPT has been quietly building a prototype that combines AI image generation with a social feed interface. For many industry observers, this announcement seemed to come completely out of left field. After all, isn't OpenAI's primary mission to develop artificial general intelligence that benefits humanity? A social media platform hardly seems aligned with that lofty goal. Yet, as the initial shock wore off, a more nuanced picture began to emerge. The prototype reportedly centers around DALL-E, OpenAI's powerful image generation system, allowing users to create, share, and interact with AI-generated images in a familiar social feed format. Think of it as Instagram, but where many of the images are created by artificial intelligence rather than captured by smartphone cameras. What makes this development particularly interesting is the timing. OpenAI has been facing increased competition from rivals like Anthropic, Google's Gemini, and Meta's Llama models. This social play represents a significant departure from the company's previous product strategy, which has focused primarily on developer APIs and direct consumer applications of its AI models. Industry analysts have offered mixed reactions. OpenAI entering social media is like Tesla suddenly announcing their opening restaurants, noted tech commentator Sasha Patel. It seems tangential to their core business until you consider the data implications. Others have been more skeptical, questioning whether an AI research lab has the expertise to compete in the crowded social media landscape. The contrast between this new direction and OpenAI's stated mission is stark. Founded in 2015 as a non-profit research laboratory, OpenAI's original charter committed to ensuring that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. The organization later created a capped profit entity to attract the funding needed for massive computation and talent, but maintained its focus on developing increasingly capable AI systems that could eventually lead to artificial general intelligence, AGI. Building a social network appears at first glance to be a significant deviation from this path. Social media platforms are typically associated with engagement metrics, advertising revenue, and content moderation headaches, not groundbreaking AI research. Yet OpenAI's leadership appears convinced that this move aligns with their long-term goals in ways that aren't immediately obvious to outside observers. The technical details of the prototype reveal strategic thinking behind the apparent shift. Rather than creating a general-purpose social network to compete directly with established platforms like Facebook or X, formerly Twitter, OpenAI has designed its prototype around the specific capabilities of its AI systems. The central feature is reportedly ChatGPT's image generation functionality, suggesting that user interactions will revolve around creating, modifying, and sharing AI-generated visual content. This approach leverages OpenAI's existing technological strengths while carving out a potentially unique niche in the social media ecosystem. Instead of trying to replicate established platforms, the company appears to be creating something that could only exist in a world where advanced AI image generation is possible, a world that OpenAI itself has helped create. Behind the scenes, CEO Sam Altman has been characteristically cautious about the project. Sources familiar with the development say he has been quietly soliciting feedback from trusted contacts about the prototype, gauging reactions before making any public commitments. This approach matches Altman's general leadership style: methodical experimentation followed by rapid scaling once a concept proves viable. One major question remains unanswered. Will this social functionality exist as a standalone application or be integrated into the existing ChatGPT interface? The distinction matters significantly. A separate app would signal a more ambitious play for social media market share, while integration into ChatGPT would represent a more conservative extension of OpenAI's current product ecosystem. Either way, the move raises fundamental questions about OpenAI's strategic direction. Why would a company focused on developing artificial general intelligence suddenly enter the social media space? The simplest explanation that OpenAI simply sees a market opportunity seems insufficient given the organization's historical emphasis on its research mission over commercial opportunities. A more compelling theory involves data access. AI models require massive amounts of training data, and social networks generate precisely the kind of diverse, timely, human interaction data that could be valuable for training more capable AI systems. By creating their own platform, OpenAI could potentially secure a proprietary source of training data that wouldn't be available through partnerships or public datasets. There's also the question of feedback loops. AI systems improve through human feedback, and a social platform centered around AI-generated content could create powerful opportunities for gathering nuanced human reactions to the outputs of OpenAI's models. Each like, share, comment, or edit could potentially provide signals about what humans find valuable, interesting, or problematic in AI-generated content. From this perspective, what initially appeared to be a strategic diversion begins to look more like a calculated evolution. Rather than abandoning its mission of developing beneficial artificial general intelligence, OpenAI might be creating infrastructure that supports that mission in ways that weren't previously possible. The move also coincides with increasing regulatory scrutiny around AI training data, as lawmakers and courts consider questions of copyright, consent, and compensation for data used to train AI systems. Having a platform where users explicitly create and share content for AI learning purposes could provide OpenAI with a more legally defensible source of training data. Industry competition provides another lens for understanding this decision. Google has search data, Meta has social data, Amazon has commerce data, Microsoft has workplace data. Each of these tech giants has access to massive proprietary data sets that can be leveraged for AI development. Prior to this social network initiative, OpenAI lacked a comparable data source, relying instead on public web data and specific partnerships. The social network strategy potentially addresses this competitive disadvantage, giving OpenAI its own data ecosystem to draw from. In this light, the move appears less like a random pivot and more like a necessary evolution to remain competitive in an increasingly crowded AI landscape. What remains to be seen is how users will respond to this new offering. Will people embrace a social platform centered around AI-generated images? Will the novelty of AI creation be enough to overcome the network effects that make existing social platforms so sticky? These questions can't be answered through strategic analysis alone. They require real-world testing and user adoption. What's clear, though, is that this represents a major strategic shift for OpenAI. The company is no longer content to build AI systems and offer them through limited interfaces. Instead, it's creating an ecosystem where AI capability and human interaction can directly inform and enhance each other. This move signals a new phase in OpenAI's evolution, one where the boundaries between AI research, product development, and social platforms become increasingly blurred. The data hunger games, AI's insatiable appetite. The silent crisis behind AI's rapid evolution isn't processing power or algorithmic innovation, it's data scarcity. While companies like OpenAI showcase impressive capabilities with each new model release, behind the scenes they are confronting an uncomfortable reality. The internet's high-quality training material is being consumed faster than it's being replaced. Modern large language models operate through a process similar to pattern recognition on an unprecedented scale. When GPT-4 generates a response, it's drawing from patterns learned across trillions of words from books, articles, websites, and other text sources. The quality of this training corpus directly determines the quality of the AI's outputs. Models trained on Wikipedia articles and academic papers produce more accurate, useful responses than those trained on random social media comments. The issue facing OpenAI isn't just about quantity, it's about quality. Anthropic's Claude AI researchers estimated that at current growth rates, AI companies will exhaust all high-quality text data on the internet by 2026. This isn't just theoretical. Engineers at major AI labs have observed that each successive training run yields diminishing returns when using the same data sources. The amount of high-quality text data suitable for training the next generation of AI models is finite, explains AI researcher Dr. Emily Chen. Unlike computational resources which follow Moore's law, training data doesn't double in availability every couple of years. We're looking at a genuine supply constraint. This constraint creates an asymmetric advantage for tech giants with existing platforms. Google has billions of search queries and YouTube videos. Meta possesses decades of Facebook posts, Instagram captions, and WhatsApp messages. Microsoft has Office documents, LinkedIn professional content, and GitHub code repositories. These companies can continuously harvest fresh, diverse data from their own ecosystems. OpenAI, despite its partnerships and investments, lacks this native ecosystem advantage. While competitors draw from their own perpetually refreshing wells of user-generated content, OpenAI must negotiate access to third-party data sources. Consider the economics. OpenAI reportedly pays millions annually to license news content from organizations like the Associated Press, Reuters, and Axel Springer. Their partnership with Reddit, valued at approximately $60 million, provides access to conversation data, but comes with both financial costs and usage limitations. These arrangements create three distinct disadvantages for OpenAI. First, they're expensive, diverting capital from other research initiatives. Second, they're restrictive, often limiting how the data can be used or incorporated into models. Third, they're vulnerable to termination if partners decide to develop competing products or align with different AI companies. The situation resembles a medieval kingdom without farmland, forced to purchase grain from neighboring territories at premium prices while always vulnerable to supply disruption. Just as a kingdom might eventually decide to acquire its own agricultural capacity, OpenAI appears to be considering a similar strategic move with its social network plans. An additional challenge is that licensing agreements rarely provide real-time data access. When OpenAI licenses Reddit content, they typically receive periodic data dumps rather than continuous streams. This creates a perpetual lag between current discourse and what the AI model has learned. The hunt for quality training material has turned practically every text-rich website into a potential resource. However, many sites have begun implementing measures to protect their content from AI training. Publishers like the New York Times have filed lawsuits against AI companies for unauthorized use of their content. Others have implemented technical barriers through robots, text files, and similar mechanisms to prevent AI crawlers from accessing their material. This trend toward data protectionism further constricts the available pool of high-quality training materials. The internet is transitioning from an open commons to a series of walled gardens, with content owners increasingly aware of their data's value in the AI economy. Even academic and scientific content, crucial for teaching AI systems factual knowledge, is becoming more difficult to access. Many academic publishers have tightened access controls or explicitly prohibited AI training uses in their terms of service. This creates additional barriers for companies without existing relationships with academic institutions, complicating matters further. Data quality isn't just about factual accuracy, it's about diversity of perspective, voice, and cultural context. Training exclusively on corporate documents, news articles, and academic papers would produce AI that mirrors these formal writing styles while missing the nuances of everyday communication. The next frontier in AI advancement isn't just bigger models. It's better, more diverse training data, notes computational linguist Dr. James Park. Models trained on narrow slices of internet content develop blind spots and biases that limit their usefulness. This diversity requirement makes social media content particularly valuable. Platforms like Twitter, now X, Facebook, and Instagram capture informal language, cultural trends, multilingual conversations, and diverse perspectives that aren't represented in traditional publications. OpenAI's data acquisition costs are estimated to represent between 15 to 25% of their operational expenses, an unsustainable proportion as they scale. Unlike competitors who generate revenue from existing platforms while simultaneously harvesting data from those same platforms, OpenAI must fund both sides of this equation separately. The emergence of synthetic data, content generated by AI to train newer AI systems, offers a partial solution but introduces its own problems. Models trained primarily on synthetic data tend to develop artifacts, repetitive patterns, and factual inconsistencies that compound with each generation. This phenomenon, sometimes called model collapse results in AI systems that gradually drift from human-like communication toward their own peculiar linguistic patterns. Using AI to generate training data for other AI is like making photocopies of photocopies, explains AI ethics researcher Dr. Sarah Johnson. Each generation loses some fidelity to the original. You need to regularly inject fresh human-generated content to maintain quality. Creating a proprietary social network would allow OpenAI to collect precisely the types of data most valuable for future AI training: conversational exchanges, cultural references, emerging terminology, multilingual content, and diverse viewpoints, all with clear user consent and without ongoing licensing fees. For OpenAI, developing this platform isn't just about keeping pace with competitors, it's about sustainable growth. Their current ChatGPT user base provides valuable feedback data through interactions, but the platform wasn't designed to generate the broad spectrum of content needed for comprehensive AI training. The economics of creating their own data ecosystem become increasingly compelling as licensing costs rise and data availability constraints tighten. While building and maintaining a social platform requires significant investment, that investment creates an appreciating asset rather than an ongoing expense. Some AI researchers have described the current situation as data capitalism's final frontier, a race to control the remaining pools of human-generated content not yet incorporated into AI training sets. As these pools shrink, companies without their own data generation mechanisms face existential challenges to continued advancement. Real-time data, the missing ingredient. Beyond the shrinking pools of existing content lies an even more valuable resource that OpenAI can't simply purchase: real-time data. While historical data sets provide the foundation for AI understanding, they represent essentially frozen moments in time, digital artifacts of conversations, news cycles, and cultural references that grow increasingly outdated with each passing day. This is the fundamental distinction that separates powerful AI models from truly helpful assistants. Historical data teaches AI systems the patterns of human communication, reasoning, and knowledge as they existed when the data was collected. But our world doesn't stand still. New words emerge, cultural references shift, and events reshape our understanding daily. An AI trained exclusively on yesterday's internet will increasingly misunderstand today's world. When you ask ChatGPT about current events, political developments, or recent technological breakthroughs that occurred after its knowledge cutoff, you encounter its most significant limitation. The model can't discuss the outcomes of recent elections, analyze yesterday's market shifts, or even recognize cultural phenomena that emerged after its training data ended. This knowledge gap creates an increasingly problematic disconnect between AI capabilities and user expectations. Consider what happens when a journalist asks about breaking news, a student inquires about a recent scientific discovery, or a business analyst seeks insights on market movements from the previous day. In each case, ChatGPT must acknowledge its inability to provide current information, a limitation that fundamentally restricts its utility in time-sensitive contexts. Social media platforms excel precisely where static datasets fail. They capture the living pulse of human communication, the evolving language patterns, emerging slang, breaking news reactions, and shifting cultural narratives as they happen. When a new phrase enters the lexicon or a cultural moment redefines how people communicate about certain topics, these changes appear first in social conversations, not in carefully curated datasets or academic publications. Take the example of language evolution in real time. When the term doom scrolling emerged during the early pandemic, it rapidly became part of everyday vocabulary. Social platforms captured this linguistic evolution as it occurred. The initial coining, widespread adoption, context of usage, and eventual standardization of the term. A model with access to this real-time data could incorporate such developments continuously, rather than waiting for the next major training update. Google and Meta have leveraged this advantage extensively. Google's models can draw upon search queries, YouTube comments, and user interactions across its vast ecosystem. These inputs provide not just content, but crucial context: what information people seek, how questions are phrased in the present moment, which answers satisfy user needs, and how language use shifts across regions and demographics. Meta's advantage may be even more significant. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp collectively process billions of daily interactions spanning diverse communication modes, from casual conversations to business exchanges, from private messages to public pronouncements. This gives Meta's AI systems unprecedented visibility into how language functions in actual human interactions across virtually every cultural context imaginable. The results of this real-time data advantage become evident when comparing different AI systems' cultural awareness. Models with access to continuous data streams demonstrate superior ability to understand contextual references, recognize current events, interpret emerging terminology, and navigate sensitive topics as social norms evolve. They can monitor sentiment shifts around brands, public figures, or social issues as they occur rather than operating with outdated perspectives. OpenAI's attempts to address this limitation through partnerships provide only partial solutions. Licensing agreements with news organizations help with factual updates but miss the crucial dimension of how people actually discuss and process those facts in real time. Similarly, partnerships with content platforms offer valuable but curated data that lacks the spontaneity and diversity of genuine social interaction. These arrangements also come with significant financial burdens without solving the fundamental problem. The impact of this limitation extends beyond mere factual awareness. Cultural context and sensitivity require continuous updating. An AI system might learn the general principles of respectful communication from historical data, but without exposure to evolving social norms and language practices, it risks increasingly tone-deaf responses as cultural contexts shift. What was considered appropriate terminology or framing just months ago may become problematic without continuous exposure to how communities actually communicate. This explains why building a social network represents such a strategic priority for OpenAI. A proprietary platform would create a continuous feedback mechanism where users generate precisely the type of dynamic contextual data most valuable for AI training. Every interaction, from comments on shared content to private messages, from reaction patterns to content creation choices, provides insights into current language usage, cultural references, and information needs. The ideal data for maintaining AI relevance combines several critical qualities. It must be timely, diverse, contextually rich, and representative of authentic human communication. Social networks inherently generate content with these exact characteristics at unprecedented scale. Users collectively create a living map of language evolution, cultural shifts, and information priorities impossible to synthesize through other means. Creating a dedicated platform also addresses the complex issue of data rights and permissions. Rather than navigating increasingly restrictive licensing agreements with external platforms, OpenAI could establish clear terms of service, allowing user-generated content to improve their AI systems. Users would participate with explicit understanding that their interactions contribute to AI development, a more sustainable and transparent approach than contentious data scraping practices. Why couldn't OpenAI simply partner more extensively with existing social networks? The answer highlights both practical and strategic obstacles. Companies like Meta, Google, and even smaller platforms increasingly view their user-generated data as a competitive advantage in AI development. As these companies build their own AI capabilities, sharing their most valuable asset with a potential competitor becomes increasingly unattractive. Even where partnerships might be possible, the terms would likely prove prohibitively expensive or restrictive. Existing social platforms understand the value of real-time interaction data and would demand compensation commensurate with that value, potentially at costs exceeding even OpenAI's substantial financial resources. More importantly, such arrangements would leave OpenAI perpetually dependent on competitors' platforms for its most crucial resource. There's also the matter of data quality and alignment. Existing social networks weren't designed with AI training as a primary consideration. Their interfaces, incentive structures, and user behaviors optimize for engagement metrics that don't necessarily produce the highest quality data for AI development. A purpose-built platform could encourage interactions specifically valuable for training more helpful, accurate, and contextually aware AI systems. Building a social network offers OpenAI another crucial advantage: the ability to design feedback mechanisms specifically tailored to improve AI capabilities. Traditional social platforms generate enormous volumes of data, but weren't engineered to extract the specific signals most useful for AI training. A dedicated platform could incorporate features explicitly designed to gather high-value training signals, from preference indicators to contextual clarifications, that would be difficult to retrofit into existing platforms. Consider how this might transform the user experience. When ChatGPT misunderstands a cultural reference or provides outdated information about a rapidly evolving situation, users currently have limited recourse. A properly designed social interface could capture these moments of confusion, allow for immediate corrections, and feed this information directly into training processes, creating a continuous improvement loop impossible with static datasets. Image generation connection. A properly designed feedback loop isn't just about correcting misunderstandings in text, it's about capturing how humans interact with all forms of content. What if OpenAI's unusual focus on image generation isn't just a feature of their social network, but its entire strategic foundation? The connection between DALL-E, Sora, and social networking points to something far more calculated than simply joining the social media space. Look at OpenAI's substantial resource allocation over the past 3 years. While ChatGPT captures headlines, the company has quietly poured enormous computational resources into visual AI systems. DALL-E 3 represented a quantum leap in image generation capabilities, and Sora's video generation technology demonstrates an even more ambitious vision for visual content creation. These aren't side projects, they're core strategic investments that reveal OpenAI's recognition of a fundamental shift in how humans communicate online. This focus on visual AI development isn't coincidental to their social network plans. It's the cornerstone. But why would an AI company primarily known for text-based systems pivot so aggressively toward visual media for its social platform? The answer lies in examining how communication patterns have evolved across digital platforms over the past decade. The visual transformation of social media has been dramatic and undeniable. Instagram's explosive growth beginning in 2012 signaled a fundamental shift in user preferences. TikTok's meteoric rise further accelerated this transition with its entire interface built around full-screen visual content. Even Twitter, the last major stronghold of text-first communication, introduced features like fleets and expanded image-sharing capabilities before its transition to X. The statistics are compelling. Posts with images generate 2.3 times more engagement than text-only content across major platforms, and users scroll through visual content approximately 41% faster than text. This visual dominance creates a perfect strategic opening for OpenAI. Rather than competing directly with established text-based platforms like X or Threads, they can leverage their considerable technical advantage in image generation, a field where they maintain a substantial lead over competitors. By focusing on AI-generated imagery as the platform's foundation, OpenAI creates a unique value proposition that established networks can't easily replicate. Consider the user experience. Rather than manually creating or uploading images, users could describe what they want to see and have it instantly generated with unprecedented quality. This removes a significant friction point in content creation while simultaneously giving users capabilities they can't find elsewhere. The generated images would serve as conversation starters, creative prompts, and shareable moments, all while generating valuable feedback for OpenAI systems. This approach aligns perfectly with how younger generations already use social media. Gen Z users in particular demonstrate strong preferences for visual communication, with 71% regularly using image editing tools and 68% preferring platforms that offer creative visual tools. For these users, an AI-powered visual content platform doesn't feel like a radical departure. It feels like a natural evolution of existing behavior patterns. The strategic brilliance becomes even clearer when we examine the data collection potential. When users interact with AI-generated images, sharing them, commenting on them, editing them, or rejecting them, they provide extraordinarily valuable training signals. Each interaction reveals human preferences about aesthetics, cultural relevance, and contextual appropriateness that would be nearly impossible to capture through other means. This data is particularly valuable for improving multimodal AI systems that must understand the relationship between text, images, and human intention. When a user requests modifications to an image through natural language, they're essentially teaching the AI how visual concepts map to linguistic descriptions, a form of training data that's extraordinarily difficult to synthesize through other methods. The feedback loop becomes even more powerful when considering the social context. When users share AI-generated images with friends, the resulting conversations provide rich contextual information about how these visuals are interpreted within different social groups. Does an image elicit laughter, confusion, or appreciation? These reactions provide nuanced training signals about cultural context and appropriateness that go far beyond what's possible with individual user interactions. Most critically, this approach allows OpenAI to gather data on emerging visual trends and preferences in near real time. As users request images reflecting current events or cultural moments, the system gains insights into how visual communication evolves and adapts. This addresses one of the fundamental limitations we discussed earlier, the increasingly stale nature of static training data. From a technical standpoint, creating a social platform centered on image generation also plays to OpenAI's strengths. DALL-E 3 already demonstrates remarkable capabilities for translating complex text prompts into coherent, stylistically consistent images. Sora extends this capability to video generation. By embedding these technologies within a social context, OpenAI creates an environment where their technical investments can shine while simultaneously generating the data needed for further refinement. This approach also creates natural opportunities for monetization without disrupting the user experience. Premium filters, expanded generation capabilities, or commercial licensing options for particularly compelling AI-generated content could provide revenue streams that align with user interests rather than competing with them. This addresses another critical challenge for AI development, creating sustainable business models that support continued research advancement. The image-first approach also helps OpenAI navigate the thorny regulatory landscape surrounding AI training data. By generating a continuous stream of entirely new images created through user prompts, they build a proprietary visual dataset with clear permission structures. This contrasts sharply with the increasingly problematic practice of scraping existing visual content from across the internet, which has led to multiple lawsuits from artists and photographers. Of course, this strategy isn't without risks. The potential for users to generate inappropriate or harmful imagery creates significant moderation challenges. However, OpenAI has already developed sophisticated filtering systems for DALL-E that could be applied and further refined within a social context. The controlled environment of a dedicated platform might actually provide better safeguards than the current approach where image generation capabilities are integrated into multiple third-party applications with varying levels of oversight. There's also the challenge of competition from established platforms. Meta's Instagram already incorporates AI-generated imagery through partnerships with third-party applications, and Snapchat has integrated various AI creation tools. However, neither platform was built from the ground up around AI-generated visuals, giving OpenAI the potential advantage of a purpose-built system rather than retrofitted capabilities. The AI-human feedback loop. While established platforms retrofit AI capabilities into existing frameworks, OpenAI's approach suggests something far more revolutionary. What if the relationship between humans and AI isn't meant to be a one-way street, but rather a continuous conversation? The most valuable innovation might not be in the AI systems themselves, but in creating an entirely new symbiotic relationship where machines and humans evolve together. Traditional AI development follows a predictable pattern. Engineers collect massive data sets, train models on that information, and then deploy them for public use. Any improvements require another round of data collection, training, and deployment, a slow, methodical process with clear boundaries between development phases. In this conventional approach, humans create the initial training data, AI systems learn from it, and then humans consume the output with minimal opportunity for immediate refinement. But what if we could collapse these distinct phases into a single continuous process? A purpose-built social network centered around AI-generated content creates precisely this opportunity. When users interact with AI-generated images, liking, sharing, commenting, or requesting modifications, they're not just consuming content. They're actively participating in the training process itself. This integration creates a real-time feedback mechanism fundamentally different from current approaches. Consider how AI training typically works today. Researchers might collect thousands of human ratings on outputs, analyze patterns in those ratings, and then update models accordingly, a process that can take weeks or months. In contrast, a social platform could capture immediate reactions to AI-generated content from millions of users simultaneously, creating a continuous stream of training signals that reflect authentic human responses. The implications for model improvement are profound. Rather than making educated guesses about what humans might find appealing or appropriate, AI systems could directly observe which generated images receive positive engagement and which are ignored or criticized. This granular feedback could help models understand subtle distinctions in quality, cultural relevance, and aesthetic preferences that might be impossible to capture through conventional training methods. The velocity of this feedback loop could dramatically accelerate AI development. Instead of waiting for formal model updates, systems could make incremental adjustments based on accumulated feedback, potentially improving over days rather than months. This approach also addresses one of the core challenges in AI development: understanding how preferences and cultural contexts evolve over time. A static dataset from 2020 can't capture how visual aesthetics or cultural references have changed since then, but a living platform with continuous user feedback can track these shifts as they happen. What makes this approach particularly powerful is its ability to capture implicit feedback alongside explicit interactions. When a user spends more time looking at certain types of generated images or frequently modifies prompts in particular ways, these behaviors provide valuable training signals even without direct ratings or comments. These subtle patterns of engagement might reveal preferences that users themselves couldn't articulate if asked directly. The feedback loop also operates in the reverse direction, potentially transforming human creativity itself. When users interact with AI-generated content, they're exposed to novel combinations, unexpected interpretations, and aesthetic possibilities they might never have considered. This exposure could expand creative horizons, inspiring new directions in human-led creation that wouldn't have emerged otherwise. Researcher Dr. Maya Peterson, who studies human-AI creative collaboration, describes this as bilateral inspiration, a process where AI systems suggest possibilities that humans might not have envisioned, while humans provide the evaluative feedback and creative direction that AI systems cannot generate independently. This creates what Peterson calls a creative acceleration spiral, where each participant enhances the capabilities of the other. This bilateral inspiration has already emerged in limited contexts. Professional artists have reported that experimenting with image generation tools has influenced their personal style or approach, introducing techniques or compositional elements they hadn't previously considered. Writer Robin Sloan has described using language models as thought partners that help overcome creative blocks by suggesting unexpected directions. A dedicated social platform could amplify these effects by making them accessible to millions of users simultaneously. The implications extend beyond creativity into domains like education and knowledge sharing. When a user requests an AI-generated visualization of a complex scientific concept, their feedback on the accuracy and clarity of that visualization helps the system better understand both the subject matter and effective educational communication. As these improvements accumulate, the system becomes a more effective teaching tool, potentially democratizing access to complex knowledge. This vision represents a significant philosophical shift in how we conceptualize the relationship between humans and AI. Rather than viewing AI as either a tool controlled by humans or an autonomous system that operates independently, it suggests a third path, a collaborative partnership where the boundaries between human and machine contributions become increasingly fluid. Communications theorist Professor Julian Wright frames this as co-evolutionary development, where the capabilities of AI systems and human users evolve together, each adapting to the changing nature of the other. This approach, Wright argues, has the potential to avoid both the limitations of human-controlled AI and the risks of fully autonomous systems by creating a continuous feedback mechanism that keeps AI aligned with evolving human values and needs. The technical implementation of such a system presents significant challenges. Distinguishing genuine user preferences from biased or manipulative feedback requires sophisticated analysis. Ensuring that the system doesn't simply optimize for engagement at the expense of quality or diversity demands careful design. And preventing adversarial actors from poisoning the feedback loop with intentionally misleading signals necessitates robust security measures. However, these challenges are not insurmountable, and the potential benefits extend far beyond model improvement. A well-designed feedback loop could help address one of the most persistent concerns about AI development: alignment with human values. By continuously incorporating human feedback about what types of content are appropriate, helpful, or valuable, AI systems could develop a more nuanced understanding of human preferences and ethical boundaries than would be possible through conventional training alone. This approach also offers a potential solution to the challenge of AI systems becoming stale or disconnected from current reality. As the world changes, user feedback automatically incorporates new contexts, concerns, and cultural references, helping AI systems maintain relevance without requiring complete retraining. For OpenAI specifically, creating this feedback loop addresses a critical competitive disadvantage. While companies like Google and Meta own platforms that generate continuous user data, OpenAI has historically relied on static data sets and limited partnership arrangements. Building a platform designed specifically to facilitate this feedback loop could provide a sustainable source of training signals while offering users unique creative possibilities unavailable on traditional social networks. The tech titan rivalry: Musk, Zuckerberg, and Altman. This competitive disadvantage isn't just a technical problem for OpenAI, it's the latest battleground in an intensifying rivalry between the world's most powerful tech leaders. When Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg enter the same arena, business decisions become indistinguishable from personal vendettas. The tangled history between these three men extends far beyond professional competition. Elon Musk was actually a co-founder of OpenAI back in 2015, investing $50 million of his own money with the explicit goal of creating an open-source counterweight to Google's AI dominance. The organization's original mission statement, to ensure artificial general intelligence benefits humanity, aligned perfectly with Musk's stated concerns about unchecked AI development. But this alliance fractured dramatically in 2018 when Musk resigned from OpenAI's board, citing conflicts of interest with Tesla's own AI initiatives. What began as an amicable separation quickly soured. In 2019, OpenAI restructured as a capped profit company, a move Musk publicly criticized as betraying the organization's founding principles. He tweeted that OpenAI should be more open and claimed the company had become essentially a closed-source, maximum profit company effectively controlled by Microsoft. This criticism escalated to direct confrontation in March 2023 when Musk filed a lawsuit against OpenAI, alleging the company had abandoned its original nonprofit mission. Court documents revealed that in October 2022, Musk had made an unsolicited offer to take control of OpenAI, a proposal the board unanimously rejected. Adding another layer to this complex relationship, reporter Kara Swisher uncovered that Sam Altman had previously approached Musk with an offer to jointly purchase Twitter before Musk's solo acquisition. The contentious relationship between Musk and Altman represents just one dimension of this tech triangle. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta has positioned itself as OpenAI's direct competitor with substantial investments in open-source AI models like Llama. Where OpenAI charges for access to its most capable systems, Meta has adopted the opposite approach, freely sharing powerful models with researchers and developers worldwide. This philosophical divide extends to their social platform strategies. In February 2024, Meta announced plans to integrate AI-generated content directly into Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, with particular emphasis on what the company calls AI Studio, a suite of tools allowing users to create and share AI-generated content. Meta's head of AI, Joël Pineau, emphasized this approach as democratizing creative expression, in direct contrast to OpenAI's more controlled ecosystem. The rivalry became explicitly personal when Zuckerberg and Musk briefly agreed to a cage match in 2023 after trading barbs about their respective companies' approaches to AI safety. While the fight never materialized, the public spectacle highlighted how business competition has bled into personal animosity. Industry analyst Maria Gonzalez from Tech Future Partners explains, these aren't just competing business models. They're competing visions for humanity's relationship with AI technology. Each leader believes their approach is existentially important, which raises the stakes beyond typical market competition. This three-way rivalry has significant implications for how social platforms might evolve with AI integration. OpenAI's potential social network would compete directly with both Meta's established platforms and Musk's X, formerly Twitter. Each platform represents a distinct philosophy. Meta leverages massive scale and existing user bases. X emphasizes free speech and minimal content moderation, and OpenAI would likely prioritize thoughtful AI-human interaction with stronger safeguards. The competition extends to talent, recruitment, and retention. Since 2021, an estimated 217 AI researchers and engineers have moved between these three companies with compensation packages sometimes exceeding $10 million annually for top specialists. One former OpenAI researcher who requested anonymity revealed, "When I received offers from all three companies, the decision wasn't just about compensation. Each CEO personally reached out to explain their vision for AI's future. The rivalry between them was palpable even in those conversations." While personal rivalries might fuel innovation through competition, they also introduce significant risks. The pressure to outpace competitors has accelerated AI development timelines, potentially compromising safety protocols. Internal documents from a 2023 OpenAI board meeting noted concerns about competitive pressure from Meta potentially encouraging premature releases, though OpenAI has publicly maintained its commitment to responsible deployment. The rivalry also fragments the AI ecosystem into competing standards and platforms. Professor Alexandra Kim from Stanford's Center for AI Safety observes, "We're witnessing the balkanization of the AI landscape. Rather than collaborative development of shared standards, each company is creating its own ecosystem with different capabilities, limitations, and governance structures." For users, this fragmentation means navigating multiple AI systems with inconsistent capabilities and safety measures. A December 2023 survey by Consumer Reports found that 72% of respondents expressed confusion about differences between various AI systems, with 68% concerned about inconsistent safety standards across platforms. OpenAI's potential social network introduces another dimension to this competition: vertical integration. By controlling both the AI models and a platform for their deployment, OpenAI could create experiences impossible to replicate on other networks. This advantage works in multiple directions. The social network provides proprietary training data for their AI models, while their advanced AI capabilities could offer unique features unavailable elsewhere. This integration could grant OpenAI unprecedented control over the AI experience. Unlike Google or Meta, which retrofit AI into existing platforms, OpenAI could design an ecosystem from the ground up where the line between human and AI contributions intentionally blurs. This approach potentially leapfrogs competitors, stuck updating legacy platforms with AI functionality that feels bolted on rather than native. The competitive dynamics extend beyond just these three companies. In March 2024, Stability AI announced its own social platform focused on image generation, while Google continues integrating generative AI features across its ecosystem. Even Amazon has entered the fray with a reported internal project to develop social functionality for its AI assistant. What began as technical competition has evolved into a clash of personalities and philosophies that will shape how billions of people interact with artificial intelligence. The stakes extend beyond market share to fundamental questions about AI governance, access, and safety. This competitive pressure creates a double-edged sword. On one hand, it accelerates innovation and forces companies to differentiate their offerings. On the other, it risks prioritizing speed over safety and market share over responsible development. As venture capitalist Sarah Tavel noted in a recent blog post, "When titans compete, Innovation accelerates, but often at the expense of the deliberation necessary for technologies with such far-reaching implications. The future of content, AI-generated versus human-created. While tech giants race to outmaneuver each other, a more profound transformation lurks beneath the surface. Imagine a platform where you can't distinguish between posts written by your friends and those generated by AI, not because the AI is convincing, but because the distinction no longer matters. This convergence represents an unprecedented moment in media history. The first time a company creating the tools for artificial content generation would also control the primary channel, where that content is distributed and consumed. This dual control creates a fundamentally different dynamic than anything we've seen before. Traditional media companies like Disney or Netflix produce content and own distribution channels, but they don't manufacture the cameras, editing software, and creative tools used by their contributors. Tech platforms like Facebook and Twitter provide spaces for content sharing but don't directly create the production tools. OpenAI's potential social network would collapse this separation, placing both creation and distribution under one corporate umbrella. The implications of this consolidation extend far beyond business strategy. When the company that builds increasingly sophisticated content generation tools also controls where and how that content circulates, the traditional boundaries between creator and platform blur significantly. Professor Alexandra Reeves from MIT's Media Lab explains we are witnessing the emergence of a new kind of media ecosystem where the distinction between platform and creator becomes functionally obsolete. The entity that builds the AI is simultaneously building the space where that AI's output lives. This arrangement creates opportunities for unprecedented innovation. An OpenAI social network could seamlessly integrate creation and sharing in ways impossible for traditional platforms. Imagine requesting an AI-generated video or image and instantly sharing it with your network, all without switching applications or navigating complex workflows. The platform could offer intelligent collaborative features where AI suggestions enhance human creativity in real time, creating a fluid exchange between artificial and human input. However, this integration also raises profound questions about how content value is determined. Traditional social platforms derive their worth from human-created content, your posts, photos, and interactions. But what happens when a significant portion of that content comes from the platform's own AI tools? Digital media theorist Jamie Wilkinson notes, in this environment, OpenAI would essentially be creating both supply and demand within its own ecosystem. They would generate the content that attracts users while simultaneously benefiting from those users' engagement with that same content. This circular relationship could fundamentally reshape how we understand creative attribution and ownership. On existing platforms, the person who posts content generally claims ownership, even if copyright questions remain complex. But in an AI-driven social network, the lines blur considerably. If you prompt an AI to create an image based on your description and then another user modifies that image with the same AI, who owns the resulting creation? The original prompter? The modifier, the AI itself, or the company that built and hosts both the AI and the platform? Beyond technical questions of ownership lie deeper cultural concerns about the potential devaluation of human creativity. Cultural anthropologist Dr. Natalie Rodriguez warns, when AI-generated content becomes indistinguishable from human-created work and floods the same spaces, we risk diminishing the perceived value of human creative labor. If anyone can generate a masterpiece with a well-crafted prompt, what happens to our cultural understanding of artistic achievement? This concern extends beyond professional creators to everyday users. The satisfaction of sharing your photographs, writing, or artwork comes partly from the recognition that you created something unique. In a space where AI can instantly generate similar or potentially superior content, that sense of creative accomplishment might diminish. The unique human characteristic of creation becomes commonplace when machines can replicate it at scale. Yet, this pessimistic view is counterbalanced by those who see AI as expanding rather than contracting creative possibilities. Digital artist Marcus Chen argues, throughout history, new tools have always been met with fear before they're embraced as extensions of human creativity. AI won't replace human creation, it will transform it. enabling new forms of expression we haven't even imagined yet. On an OpenAI social network, this transformation might manifest as a new collaborative paradigm. Rather than viewing content as either AI or human-generated, we might see the emergence of a spectrum where most creations involve contributions from both. The critical factor might become not who or what created the content, but the intention and curation behind it, the human choices that guide the AI's capabilities toward meaningful expression. This potential shift extends to how we understand authenticity itself. Traditional social media platforms already struggle with questions of authenticity as users present carefully curated versions of themselves. An OpenAI social network might further complicate this by introducing tools that help users express ideas they couldn't articulate independently. Is a beautifully worded post less authentic if an AI helped craft it? Is a striking image less meaningful if algorithms assisted in its creation? Content attribution in this environment would require entirely new frameworks. Traditional copyright law, built around clearly identifiable human creators, provides little guidance for collaborative human-AI creation. OpenAI would need to pioneer new approaches to attribution that acknowledge both human direction and machine execution, perhaps through detailed metadata that tracks the evolution of content from initial prompt through various iterations and modifications. The economic implications of this shift are equally significant. Current content creator economies rely on the scarcity of certain skills, writing, photography, design, that AI increasingly replicates. An OpenAI social network might need to develop new economic models that reward human contribution differently. Perhaps value would shift from technical execution to conceptual direction, curation, and the ability to guide AI tools toward meaningful outcomes. For users, an OpenAI social network would offer a fundamentally different experience than existing platforms. Rather than simply scrolling through content others have created, users might become active collaborators with AI, providing initial ideas that AI helps develop, refine, and transform. The platform might blur the line between consumption and creation, as even casual engagement could generate new content variations. This hybrid environment could also change how we relate to digital content emotionally. Media psychologist Dr. Thomas Knight suggests our attachment to content stems partly from understanding the human effort behind it. As AI generation becomes normalized, we may develop different emotional responses to digital media, perhaps valuing the conceptual spark and curation more than technical execution. For OpenAI, these considerations extend beyond philosophical interest to practical business concerns. A social network that successfully bridges AI-generated and human-created content could create unprecedented network effects as each user interaction simultaneously improves the underlying AI while generating content that attracts more users. This self-reinforcing cycle could create a uniquely powerful platform that competitors would struggle to replicate. However, this potential comes with significant responsibility. By controlling both creation tools and distribution channels, OpenAI would wield extraordinary influence over digital culture. Their decisions about which types of content to promote, restrict, or monetize would shape not just what we see online, but potentially how creativity itself evolves in the digital age. The moderation challenge. This immense responsibility extends beyond just shaping creativity. It creates a paradox unique to AI social networks. What happens when the entity responsible for moderating harmful content is the same one that built the tools to create it in the first place? For the first time, we might see a platform where the creator and the regulator are one and the same, presenting both unprecedented opportunities and novel challenges. Traditional social media platforms have long struggled with content moderation. Facebook employs over 15,000 content moderators who face the traumatic task of reviewing the worst content humanity produces. Twitter's moderation approach has swung dramatically with changing leadership. YouTube's algorithmic moderation regularly flags innocent content while missing actual violations. The inconsistency across platforms has created a fractured digital landscape where what's acceptable on one service might be banned on another. OpenAI could potentially approach this challenge differently. Instead of retrofitting moderation systems onto existing platforms, they could design their social network with moderation capabilities integrated from day one. Their unique advantage lies in the sophisticated AI infrastructure they've already built for content understanding and generation, Consider how an AI native approach might transform moderation. Rather than relying primarily on human reviewers or simplistic keyword filtering, OpenAI could deploy specialized models specifically designed to understand context, nuance, and potentially harmful patterns. These systems could work alongside the content generation models, creating a more cohesive ecosystem where safety is built into the architecture rather than added as an afterthought. The technical approach would likely involve a multi-layered system. At the first level, pre-publication screening could identify obvious violations before content ever goes live. A secondary system could analyze patterns of interaction and context to catch more subtle forms of manipulation or harassment. Finally, a reinforcement learning layer could continuously improve based on user reports and moderator decisions, creating a system that grows more sophisticated over time. Dr. Rachel Collins, an expert in AI ethics at Stanford University, points out, the most promising aspect of an AI company running a social network is the potential for real-time adaptive moderation that learns from evolving online behaviors rather than chasing them. This capacity for adaptation represents a significant advantage over current approaches, which often fail to keep pace with creative rule breakers. However, this integrated approach creates its own distinctive challenges. When the same company that builds generative AI also controls the mechanisms for monitoring and restricting that generation, conflicts of interest become practically inevitable. OpenAI would face difficult questions about how aggressively to limit their own technology. Consider the specific case of visual disinformation. If users discover methods to produce misleading political imagery using OpenAI's tools, the company would face pressure from different stakeholders with competing interests. Governments might demand immediate restrictions, free speech advocates might argue for minimal intervention, and investors might prioritize growth over safety. As both the creator and regulator, OpenAI would navigate these tensions from a uniquely conflicted position. Professor Julian Martinez from Columbia Law School notes that this dual role creates a fundamental accountability challenge. Who watches the watchers when the watchers build both the surveillance system and the content it monitors? The technical challenges of AI moderation also remain significant. Despite advances in natural language understanding, AI systems still struggle with cultural context, irony, and the nuanced ways humans communicate. Words that are harmless in one context can be deeply offensive in another. Determining when edgy humor crosses into harmful territory requires cultural awareness that AI systems have yet to fully master. These limitations could manifest in several problematic ways. First, over-moderation might disproportionately impact marginalized communities whose linguistic patterns differ from the training data mainstream. Studies by researchers at the University of Washington have shown that content moderation systems frequently flag African American English at higher rates than standard English, even when the content itself is identical in substance. Second, under-moderation could create blind spots for novel forms of harassment or abuse. Online communities continuously develop coded language to evade detection, and AI systems often lag in recognizing these evolving patterns until substantial harm has occurred. Third, an AI-based moderation system might create a false sense of objectivity while actually encoding human biases. As Dr. Aisha Johnson from MIT's Media Lab explains, there's no such thing as neutral AI moderation. Every decision about what constitutes harm reflects particular values and priorities, even when those decisions are implemented by machines. Perhaps the most complex challenge lies in how OpenAI would handle AI-generated content that violates their own guidelines. When users prompt the system to create potentially harmful material, where does responsibility lie? With the user who crafted the prompt, the AI that generated the content, or the company that built both? This question becomes particularly thorny when considering edge cases where users might discover unexpected ways to generate problematic content through seemingly innocent prompts. OpenAI has already faced this challenge with ChatGPT and DALL-E, implementing various guardrails and restrictions. However, a social network would dramatically increase both the scale and complexity of the problem. The interactive nature of social platforms could create new vectors for misuse that static tools don't encounter. Dr. Michael Chen, who specializes in AI safety at Carnegie Mellon University, suggests that the most promising approach would be a hybrid system where AI handles the first pass of moderation, but humans make final decisions on ambiguous cases while continuously retraining the AI based on these decisions. This approach would leverage AI's scalability while maintaining human judgment for complex edge cases. OpenAI's approach to this moderation challenge could potentially establish new standards for the industry. If successful, their methods might influence how other platforms approach content moderation, potentially raising the bar for online safety. However, if their systems prove inadequate, the consequences could be particularly severe, given their responsibility for both creating and controlling the technology. The data generated through this moderation process would also have significant value for improving AI safety more broadly. Each moderation decision becomes a training signal that could help models better understand human values and appropriate boundaries. This creates another layer of complexity. The moderation system itself becomes a source of valuable data for improving the underlying AI. This dual role as both creator and moderator places OpenAI in a position to potentially solve problems that have vexed every social platform to date. Their technical capabilities combined with their safety-focused culture could create new paradigms for online interaction. However, this same position also saddles them with unprecedented responsibility and novel conflicts of interest that no company has previously navigated. Mission drift or strategic evolution. While OpenAI navigates these uncharted waters of dual responsibility, an even more existential tension lurks beneath the surface. Are they abandoning their original mission of ensuring artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity? Or is a social network precisely what they need to fulfill it? Let's rewind to OpenAI's founding principles. When Sam Altman and his co-founders established the organization, they articulated a vision focused on developing artificial general intelligence, AGI, that would benefit humanity collectively rather than serving narrow commercial interests. This mission shaped everything from their research priorities to their organizational structure. Now, with the social network initiative, observers are questioning whether this represents a fundamental pivot away from that mission or its natural evolution. On the surface, building a social platform seems tangential to the core technical work of developing increasingly capable AI systems. Critics point to the significant engineering and operational resources that would be diverted toward building user interfaces, content management systems, and engagement features, all complex undertakings that have little direct connection to advancing the frontier of AI capabilities. Anthropologist Dr. Jamie Wilson of Cambridge University argues there's a real risk of mission creep here. Building social networks requires entirely different skill sets and priorities than advancing fundamental AI research. This concern is amplified by the history of other research-focused organizations that gradually transformed into product companies. Bell Labs, once the crown jewel of fundamental research in telecommunications, gradually shifted toward more commercially viable projects as market pressures mounted. Similarly, Xerox PARC's groundbreaking innovations in computing often ended up commercialized by other companies because of organizational tensions between research goals and business imperatives. However, examining OpenAI's mission more deeply reveals potential strategic coherence in this unexpected move. Their charter doesn't merely commit to developing AGI, but specifically to ensuring that AGI's benefits are distributed broadly. A direct connection to users through a social platform could actually strengthen their ability to deliver on this promise. Dr. Eliza Montgomery, who studies the governance of AI systems at Princeton's Center for Information Technology Policy, offers a compelling perspective. Controlling distribution channels changes the equation fundamentally. It means OpenAI wouldn't just be creating powerful tools that others might deploy in problematic ways. They could establish direct relationships with users and shape how these technologies integrate into social contexts. This distribution advantage could prove crucial in ensuring AGI benefits are broadly shared. By removing intermediaries between their AI systems and end users, OpenAI gains the ability to implement access policies, safety measures, and benefit-sharing mechanisms directly. Rather than hoping other platforms will use their technology responsibly, they could establish the norms and practices themselves. The economics of advanced AI development also provides context for this strategic shift. Training the next generation of AI models is projected to cost billions of dollars, with some estimates suggesting that achieving human-level AGI could require computational resources costing tens of billions. Under their current business model, OpenAI relies heavily on Microsoft's investment and revenue from ChatGPT and API services, arrangements that create their own tensions with the original mission. A successful social platform could generate the sustainable revenue streams necessary to fund increasingly ambitious AI research without compromising independence. Unlike one-time investments or enterprise contracts, social platforms create recurring engagement that translates to predictable revenue through advertising, premium subscriptions, or transactions. This financial sustainability could actually protect OpenAI's mission from being compromised by short-term profit pressures or investor demands. The competitive landscape further illuminates this strategic evolution. OpenAI exists in an ecosystem where other major players like Google and Meta possess tremendous advantages in data access, computational resources, and distribution channels. Their social network strategy addresses this asymmetry directly. AI researcher Dr. Victor Rahman explains, when you're competing against organizations that control vast data streams and have billions of users, you need to think differently about the competitive playing field. Building your own data pipeline isn't just prudent, it's existential. Technology philosopher Dr. Ayana Prasad frames the question differently. The real issue isn't whether OpenAI is drifting from its mission, but whether achieving that mission in today's environment requires different strategies than originally envisioned. The landscape has changed dramatically since 2015. This perspective suggests we shouldn't evaluate OpenAI's moves against a static interpretation of their mission, but rather assess whether their evolving strategy remains aligned with their fundamental goals in a dynamic environment. Just as a ship must tack against changing winds to reach its destination, an organization might need to adjust its approach while maintaining its ultimate heading. Another consideration is the unique opportunity for mission alignment that a self-developed platform provides. By designing their social network from the ground up with AI ethics and safety principles embedded in its architecture, OpenAI could create an environment that demonstrates how AI can be deployed responsibly at scale. This would transform abstract principles about beneficial AGI into concrete features, policies, and user experiences. Economist Dr. Martin Chen, who specializes in platform economics at the University of Chicago, notes, the advantage of building versus buying or partnering is that you can align incentives throughout the system. Every aspect of the platform can be designed to reinforce your core values rather than having to negotiate compromises with external partners whose priorities may differ. This alignment advantage extends beyond technical implementation to governance structures. A proprietary platform would allow OpenAI to experiment with novel approaches to user participation, transparency, and accountability that could inform broader discussions about AI governance. They could pioneer new models for including diverse stakeholders in decisions about AI development and deployment, potentially addressing one of the most challenging aspects of ensuring AGI benefits humanity broadly. The financial sustainability argument is particularly compelling when considering the increasing costs of cutting-edge AI research. Professor Elena Silva, who studies the economics of innovation at MIT, observes, throughout history, we've seen research organizations struggle with the tension between pursuit of knowledge and financial viability. The ones that succeeded long-term found ways to create sustainable funding mechanisms that protected their core mission rather than undermining it. This historical perspective suggests that rather than representing mission drift, OpenAI's social network strategy might actually be a prudent effort to create the conditions necessary for their mission's long-term success. By securing independent revenue streams and controlling key aspects of their technology's deployment, they could actually gain more autonomy to pursue beneficial AGI development according to their own timeline and priorities. The new AI business model. The autonomy and financial independence that would come from operating a social network aren't just convenient side benefits for OpenAI, they represent the foundation of an entirely new business paradigm. What we're potentially witnessing is the emergence of the first true symbiotic business model where AI systems and humans co-evolve, creating value through their interactions in ways that fundamentally transform the economics of artificial intelligence. Current AI business models follow relatively conventional patterns. Companies like OpenAI primarily sell access to their AI capabilities through APIs or subscription services. Others, like Google and Microsoft, integrate AI as a feature enhancement to their existing product ecosystems. Both approaches treat AI as either a product to be sold or a feature to be added. Neither fully harnesses the unique properties of AI as a dynamic learning system. These traditional models face significant sustainability challenges. The subscription approach requires continuous development of new capabilities to retain customers, while the feature enhancement strategy struggles to demonstrate clear ROI. Both models involve enormous upfront costs with uncertain payback periods. The economic reality is that developing increasingly sophisticated AI systems demands exponential growth in computational resources and training data, costs that traditional business models struggle to support. Economist Dr. Laura Chen, who studies emerging technology markets, points out that AI development costs follow a superlinear growth curve, while traditional software businesses rely on high margins from products with relatively fixed development costs. This fundamental mismatch creates significant tension in current AI business models. What makes OpenAI's social network strategy revolutionary is how it reimagines this relationship between costs and revenue. Rather than treating data collection and model improvement as separate cost centers, they become integrated into the core value proposition of the platform itself. Every user interaction simultaneously provides value to the user, enhances the underlying AI, and potentially generates revenue, creating a three-dimensional value creation cycle. This self-reinforcing ecosystem operates on principles fundamentally different from traditional software businesses. Technology strategist Michael Rivera explains. In conventional software, you build once and sell many times. In this new AI paradigm, every sale or user interaction actually improves what you're selling. It's like a restaurant where each customer's meal feedback instantly improves the recipe for all future diners. The network effects in this model are particularly powerful. As more users join and interact with the platform, the AI improves, which attracts more users, creating a virtuous cycle. But unlike traditional network effects that primarily increase value through connectivity, these intelligence network effects actually transform the underlying product itself. Professor Karen Wu, who studies digital platform economics at Stanford University, notes that traditional network effects increase value linearly as networks grow, but intelligence network effects could potentially increase value exponentially. Each new interaction not only adds a connection, but enhances the system's capabilities for all users. This model offers a path to economic sustainability that aligns perfectly with the technical reality of AI development. Instead of treating massive data collection and computational resources as necessary evils that eat into profit margins, they become integral to the value creation process itself. Users aren't just customers, they're participants in a continuous improvement cycle. The business implications extend far beyond simple revenue generation. This model creates significant defensive moats against competition. Any competing platform would need to overcome not just OpenAI's technical lead, but also the accumulated intelligence derived from millions of interaction cycles that can't be easily replicated. Financial analyst Sofia Rodriguez describes this advantage. Traditional competitive advantages in tech often involve scale economies or intellectual property. This new model creates a third category, evolutionary advantage, where a platform's history of interactions becomes its most valuable and inimitable asset. What's particularly significant is how this business model could extend beyond social networks to transform other AI applications. Consider healthcare, where an AI diagnostic system could improve with each clinical interaction, learning from doctor feedback and patient outcomes. Or education, where learning systems could continuously refine their approaches based on student interactions and outcomes. The potential applications of this co-evolutionary business model extend to any domain where human judgment provides valuable feedback signals, explains innovation researcher Dr. Marcus Fields. Financial services, creative industries, professional services, any field where human expertise remains valuable could adopt similar approaches. This paradigm shift would fundamentally alter competitive dynamics across the AI industry. Companies that control direct user touchpoints gain tremendous advantages over those that operate at arm's length from end users. The value of proprietary interaction data will likely exceed the value of the models themselves. We're already seeing early signs of this transition. Google's integration of Gemini into search creates similar feedback loops. Microsoft's GitHub Copilot learns from developer interactions to improve code suggestions. But OpenAI's potential social network represents perhaps the purest implementation of this model, a platform designed from the ground up around this co-evolutionary principle. For businesses and investors, this shift demands entirely new frameworks for valuation and strategic planning. Traditional metrics like customer acquisition cost or lifetime value become inadequate when each customer interaction potentially increases the lifetime value of all other customers. Venture capitalist Jennifer Torres explains, "We need to develop entirely new metrics for these businesses. The value isn't just in the customer base or revenue stream, it's in the evolutionary trajectory of the underlying intelligence and its compounding returns over time." For OpenAI specifically, this approach could resolve many of the tensions we've explored in previous sections. The nonprofit mission of ensuring AGI benefits humanity might actually be better served by a business model that directly incorporates human participation in the development process itself. Rather than developing AI in isolation and then releasing it to the world, this approach integrates human values, preferences, and feedback throughout the development cycle. The implications extend to governance as well. Traditional corporate governance struggles to balance shareholder interests against broader societal impacts. But when your business model inherently depends on maintaining positive, beneficial interactions with users, the economic incentives become more naturally aligned with responsible development. That's not to suggest this approach eliminates all concerns. Questions about data ownership, proper compensation for user contributions, and potential manipulation of user behavior to optimize for certain feedback signals remain significant challenges. And the concentration of power in platforms that simultaneously control both AI development and distribution creates novel regulatory concerns. However, the economic logic of this new paradigm appears compelling enough that we're likely to see variations of it become the dominant AI business model in coming years. Companies that fail to establish these co-evolutionary relationships with users may find themselves at a significant competitive disadvantage regardless of their technical capabilities. So what we've been exploring isn't just another tech company's side project, it's potentially the blueprint for how AI will evolve alongside humanity. OpenAI's social network represents something fundamentally different, a platform where every interaction, every creative exchange becomes fuel for smarter systems. This symbiotic relationship challenges our traditional understanding of both social media and artificial intelligence. What happens when the line between human creativity and machine-generated content becomes indistinguishable? The future isn't about whether OpenAI can build this network. It's about whether we're prepared for a world where our social interactions simultaneously entertain us and educate the very AI systems facilitating them.